A lot of choices you can make on election night. We're going to ask that you go to our Twitter page, @TheVegasTake, where we're going to put up up-to-date information. We're going to put videos out there. And we're also going to interact with our listeners. So we ask that you check that out tonight. Again, Twitter page, @TheVegasTake. You should also find me on Facebook. It is Brian Shapiro, so you can find me there as well. Again, we'll be putting up updated information. We're going to have a good time. And we hope that you decide to join us for that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And listen, tomorrow morning, we're going to have the best coverage anywhere. I promise you that. We're going to give you up to the latest, the information, whether somebody won or not. And it's going to be interactive like this show is always interactive. That's what we do here. So here's a little bit of a crazy story for you. And it involves a bet that somebody made on the election that is 7 figures, and it's absolutely insane. So a bettor placed a bet, I'm not making this up, folks, just under $1.3 million on Joe Biden to win the presidential election. Now, you can't bet it legally in the United States. You can't. Well, actually, I should say there are a few websites where you can. But what I was saying was in Las Vegas, there are no sports books where you can make a legal bet on the election. You can bet with your friends and stuff, and we can make fun bets on the air. But you can't legally do it in a sports book in Las Vegas. So this guy placed this bet, Betfair Exchange. It's an offshore book. $1.29 million. The odds were minus 187, which means bet $187 to win 100. So I'm going to guess, if my math is right, a $1.29 million wager, you're probably winning somewhere around $650,000. My math's probably not completely accurate, but it's probably somewhere around there. $1.29 million bet minus 187. Okay, I got it right here. I was close, actually. Just under 700,000, 697,000. Now, if you decided to, now that moved the odds. It went. Donald Trump went from plus 200 to plus 188. After that bet, I would imagine any odds would change. Betting favorites are expressed with a minus sign, of course, and then a plus sign. A total of $350 million has been wagered on the 2020 election just with Betfair.com. $350 million. That's like the Super Bowl. That's insane. That breaks the record of $258 million that were bet on the 2016 presidential election. Folks, this is astronomical amounts of money. Betfair is projecting more than a $500 million will be bet before today's election is complete. And I would imagine betting is probably off by now since it is Tuesday.
No, there's live odds. And I think Trump has gone from, or Biden's gone from minus 180 to minus 135.
What website?
I don't know. I saw something on the net, but yeah.
So Betfair moved it a little bit because of this substantial bet. I know there's not a lot of...
It's predicted.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that an offshore?
No, it's local.
That's a local.
Yeah, it's one of those sites you can bet like a max of $300.
Is that legal?
On the state that you want. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I know that there's another website we had the guy on where you could bet a maximum of like $850. So offshore, I guess they're taking just ridiculous amounts of money. It's absolutely insane.
We took a lot of calls today, but I don't recall any caller saying that they voted for Biden, but they haven't voted yet. People have said, I voted for Biden. And people have said, yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump, or I did vote for Trump, but I don't remember one caller saying that they were waiting to vote for Biden. And I think that's going to happen nationwide, and that's one of the reasons why Trump's going to win this election.
Well, no, they have voted for Biden.
No, yeah, but those votes are already banked. I'm saying on Election Day. I don't think there's going to be a lot of support for Joe Biden on Election Day.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. I think the more people that turn out, the advantage it is for Joe Biden. I mean, you look at the electoral, but you also look at the popular vote, and Democrats are winning the popular vote every 4 years. So I think as a whole, depending on where they vote, but as a whole, the nation, I'm just talking about the nation, not specific states, the nation, I think the more people that vote throughout the nation is advantage Joe Biden.
But I'll tell you this, the reason why Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016 is because of California. She won by, I believe, 3.6 million votes in California, and that really spiked up the popular vote. Without California, she may win the popular vote, but it's not by a million margin. It's a low margin. And this year, Trump's going to have a lot more support in California.
Let's talk to a man right now who certainly I have a ton of respect for. He runs the website electionbettingodds.com, but he is a household name. His name is John Stossel, and I grew up with my family watching him on 2020 throughout the years. He did a fantastic job as a reporter, as a journalist, and now with electionbettingodds.com. We're going to break everything down with him as John Stossel joins us right now on the line. John, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Hey, what's up, John?
I'm good. It's interesting listening to everybody's speculation, which I always think is garbage compared to the wisdom of the crowd that bets. But we'll find out tonight.
That's right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your knowledge, John, in running this website, electionbettingodds.com. You know, I was just talking about a bettor who put $1.3 million on Joe Biden on Betfair, the website Betfair. I don't know if you heard about this, but I'm looking at your statistics right now, and correct me if I'm wrong. On your website, you're estimating right now 279 electoral votes to 259 in favor of Biden. Is that the most up-to-date information, your estimates right now?
Yeah, it's live. It updates every 5 minutes.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So tell me how you get to these conclusions. I mean, I imagine there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, very little on our part these days. I just, over time, learned that the pundits are all biased by wishful thinking, and the polls are biased by their whatever errors they go in there with.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, the best predictor of anything has been the wisdom of crowds, for one thing. If you remember that program, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that you could ask an expert or you could ask the audience. And the audience was made up of whoever was willing to stand in line in the rain in New York to get to see the show. The experts were often experts, and the experts were right 62% of the time, but the audience was right only, but the audience was right 92% of the time. So crowds do, over time, tend to have an advantage. And with betting, you get serious crowds, people putting their money where their mouths are.
Right.
Unlike in the bar when the guy says, I think Biden's going to win. It's different. You say you want to put some money on it.
Right, exactly. So
all this site does is aggregate all the betting sites in the world. Unfortunately, we're limited in America because Republicans mostly banned betting on politics in America.
Yeah.
But there's one site, predicted.com, where it's legal, but the betting is limited. But the big sites like Betfair, where you said that guy just bet $1 million,
right?
They're pretty good predictors, and it really hasn't budged all day.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is still at 34% to Biden's 64%, and that sounds like a big lead, but it does mean Trump wins a third of the time. And yesterday, the Democrats' odds dropped a bit in the Senate, but they're still up 60-40.
Gotcha. Interesting. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with John Stossel from electionbettingodds.com. Okay, so John, tell me if you think I'm wrong here. These are just my opinions. And my opinions are that I believe, based on our history, the more people that vote usually throughout the country, usually, not all the time, is a benefit for Democrats. I see all the people that have voted by mail, and the voter turnout today seems pretty good, at least what we're learning so far throughout the day. You would think, and this is just my opinion, that would be advantage Biden. What are your thoughts on that?
Same thing, that maybe. But if so, the bettors had already predicted this because the betting hasn't budged today.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And you know what? We have plenty of more hours to go. Let me ask you this. Do you think that we will have a clear-cut winner and any of the national networks will be able to call this race at some point in the next 12 hours or so? Do you think that's even possible?
12 hours gets us to 4 in the morning. Yeah, sure. Could be possible, especially if it's a anti-Trump landslide. Then by 11 o'clock, they could call this thing. But the reason I make my videos now is because who cares what I think? I like to report on things where you can actually gather facts. and trying
Right.
to guess who's going to win does not fall in that category.
That's a very valid point, but I think you're selling yourself a little short. And while I totally understand what you're saying, there's a lot of biased people out there, and all that really matters is the facts. And I agree with you. You're also a guy that's been doing this a long time as a very respected member of the media, and that's why I do think people like you, because I think you're very fair, and I think your opinion does matter. And if you had to take all of what you have on your website out of it, and if I just asked you, John Stossel, and I know that in the article that you read, you went into specifics, but if you could tell me right now about these battleground states, what would be your opinion? Because you've talked a little bit about that. I know you wrote about it, because that's what really matters here, isn't it, John? Talk to me about the battleground states right now. How do you see that playing out, and what do you think is the most important state for either candidate?
Well, it is important, and if the Democrats take both the presidency and the Senate, as is predicted, and they pass all their agenda, I mean, that could be life-destroying in America, because their ideas are just Venezuela-like. What are the big states? Georgia, on the current Senate map, is very tight, and North Carolina favors the Republicans. North Carolina favors the Democrats. Iowa and Montana is leaning Republican, but not a sure thing.
Right.
Arizona is leaning Democrat, as is North Carolina and Maine and Michigan, but they're pretty close.
I'm looking at your map right now on your website, electionbettingodds.com, which is very valuable, by the way. I must say you guys do a great job on this website. Let's start with Nevada, if I may. Pretty substantial lead, according to your website right now. Democrats have a little over 72% of Nevada, while Republicans have just a little over 27%. That's pretty substantial, isn't it?
Yes, you're looking at the presidential election map.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. That's substantial. Nevada 72, Republican 27, and then we look at some of these other states. You mentioned Arizona. I mean, it almost looks like a dead heat, right?
Yeah, very close in Arizona.
Arizona's very close. I look at Florida. That's also extremely close. Georgia, North Carolina. Yeah. I mean, so I'm a little surprised, though, John, about Texas right now. 73% Republicans, Democrat 26%. A lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but 38 electoral votes. A lot of people are speculating that could be the big story of the day. That even though it's 73% Republicans, a lot of people are speculating that could be the big story, that Joe Biden wins Texas. What are your thoughts on that?
A lot of people speculate about a lot of stupid stuff. So
yeah.
The Democrats are hopeful that the people in Texas are going to vote against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But you got a few states which clearly are the touchstone states, and you can see it on this map very clearly, the ones that are not very blue or red.
Correct.
And that's Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about a state like Virginia or Colorado? When I do my research and make my decisions, I based on vote by mail and early in-person voting in Colorado, and it's all based on party affiliation. So you don't know how many Republicans are voting for Biden and how many Democrats are voting for Trump, or no party affiliation. But in Colorado, the Republicans are only down 5. In Virginia, they're only down 9. And even a state like New York, where there's only been 2.5 million votes cast as of yesterday, but there was 8 million cast in 2016, and Trump took 2.9 million of those votes. I mean, what do you think happens in those particular states where there's not a major Democratic advantage, but there's still a lot of people to vote?
I think, based on the betting, they will all go Democrat.
Yeah. I tend to agree. Last question for you, John, and we really do appreciate your time on what is obviously a very busy day for you and a lot of people. I enjoyed your article, headline, whatever happens Tuesday, life will get better. So, John, I want you to speak to the people out there that are worried. They think if Joe Biden wins, the country's going to go down the tubes. They think if Donald Trump gets reelected, the country's going to go down the tubes. With your article and your opinions, what would you say to those people that are really worried about the foundation of this country, whether it be either candidate winning? What would you say to them?
It's reasonable to worry, but the best of life does happen outside politics. Mm-hmm. And over time, things get better. They almost always have, and I presume almost always will. I mean, the stuff of life is our families, our friends, people we worship with or play sports with, and movies and music and dance and raising families and doing charity work. It's not what our overclass does, and they want to rule us. But basically, we rule America. 330 million free people. We are all individuals, and we exert control over our own lives. Politics is force. It's about who's in the majority, and they get to force us to do certain things. And we want certain amounts of force, laws against killing and robbing, and we want pollution controls. But we want it limited. If a supermarket were ruled by politics, we'd vote on what to have for dinner, and whatever the majority wanted, everybody would have to have.
Yeah.
That's why it's better we leave most decisions to individuals and hope whoever wins doesn't screw that up.
Yeah, well, that is so well said. He is John Stossel, a syndicated columnist and author, and of course he runs electionbettingodds.com. John, thank you so much for taking time with us on such a busy day. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Thanks a lot, John.